thinking about the ESG topics that they're disclosing on and how those things are tied to the business strategy, how those things are tied to their ESG strategy. Are these topics actually material in an ESG matter to the organization?
Joining me today is Jennifer Leitsch, Managing Director, Climate Change and Sustainability Services with EY. Now, knowing that there is an increasing level of discourse about ESG from a variety of stakeholders, and certainly it's very timely, how do you advise your clients on how to handle questions that they get related to these types of topics?
Yeah, like you said, it's a very timely topic. And, when our clients are getting questions about ESG and sustainability matters, they could be coming from a variety of stakeholders. And I think there's a couple of things we really want our clients to keep in mind. One, thinking about the ESG topics that they're disclosing on and how those things are tied to the business strategy, how those things are tied to their ESG strategy. Are these topics actually material in an ESG matter to the organization? So thinking about, are these topics that the company is having an impact on through their activities? Are these activities and issues that could be impacting the company's financial position? Which stakeholders care about these topics? And if you're able to tie the topics back to your business strategy, your ESG strategy, if you're able to demonstrate that these are topics that are material to the organization, it's much easier to kind of navigate those questions and show how these issues are relevant to the organization. I think sometimes people get thrown off a little bit by some of these questions that the stakeholders might be asking. And again, I think it's a really important reminder to focus our disclosures and our activities and our strategy on the topics that are most relevant to our organizations and to our stakeholders.
Now, when faced with a challenging situation related to ESG reporting or disclosures, or headwinds tied to communications with key stakeholders on climate risk or sustainability matters, what are a few pearls of wisdom you might have for commercial real estate companies or REITs?
Yeah, definitely, again, tying back to this strategy and thinking about, why are we disclosing this information, who cares about it, and really being able to, tie those things together. One of the things that we recommended to a client recently who had some of these kind of challenging questions from stakeholders about ESG topics is to really go through all of their publicly facing ESG disclosures and say, okay, for every one of these disclosures, kind of put it all into a matrix, and there are a lot, right? I think, companies are starting to disclose a lot more items because they feel that some stakeholder will care about it, but which stakeholders care about which topics. So really understanding, here's all of the disclosures that we have, and then who are the people that are asking for these things. So which stakeholder groups, which frameworks and standards that we might be using, which ratings and ranking organizations, and really kind of doing a mapping to the topics that you're disclosing to which stakeholders are actually asking about or caring about those topics. And you might find that some of the things that you're disclosing on that could be kind of borderline questionable are things that really maybe aren't material to the organization, aren't things that specific stakeholders care about, maybe they did in the past. And so really, again, refining your strategy and refining your disclosure so that they really do align to the topics your stakeholders care about that are financially material to the organization will hopefully help you answer some of those challenging questions because you really tie it back to your core business strategy and purpose.
Now, when talking about stakeholders, I'd like to look at sort of the company's employees. What are some effective measures for internally communicating ESG practices and goals?
Yeah, that's a great question because I think a lot of companies spend so much time and energy developing these amazing ESG and sustainability reports. Then they put out an article on their intranet. They send an email to all their employees saying, here's our report, check it out. And those reports are obviously designed for a lot of different stakeholder groups, but many of those reports are written for investors and analysts. They're written in a way that talks about financially material topics. And many employees, that's not how they think or talk about things, right? They want to understand what are the topics that matter most to them in their roles as employees of the organization, as members of the community. And so, trying to make sure that you're putting out communications that are targeted specifically to your employees and in a manner and in channels that are meaningful to them. So if you're putting stories on the intranet or sending emails out with stories, actually having it be a story, right? Having, have it be case studies that are focused on the employees themselves and things that, how they've been impacted through the organization's activities, for examples, and not just assuming that, if you provide them the sustainability report, that they're going to feel like, that they have all of their questions answered. I think that's definitely one of the things that we've seen, companies start to think more clearly about what is the right channel for the right audience, and not just internal audiences, but also external too. Thinking about is the sustainability report the right medium for everybody, or should we maybe be tailoring our communications to the right audience?
Now, finally, as an ESG thought leader, you're called upon to give comments in a lot of different areas, to give EY's perspective. What advice would you have to someone who's sort of starting to build their thought leadership platform, and what are some outlets that they should look to get involved with?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, LinkedIn, seems like maybe an obvious one, but it's so amazing to be able to follow, existing thought leaders in the space, follow organizations like Nareit, follow organizations that are of interest to you, and start to, read the articles that they're posting, repost, reshare some of the things that other people and organizations are posting about, and, add your own commentary, right? Why are you reposting this? What is the thing that you thought was unique about it, or what's a specific angle or take that you have on the issue that maybe was not addressed in the article itself? So, starting to maybe put out some of your own thoughts and, one or two sentence, bite-sized bits on LinkedIn is maybe a good start. You could then also, actually write your own kind of longer form articles or blog posts on LinkedIn. It's free to do that, right? You'll get some feedback from your audience, right? Do people like it? Do they not like it? Does it resonate with them? So I think, starting with a channel like that is really useful. But also, reaching out to, organizations such as Nareit that organize conferences and events, other industry associations, just being proactive and letting people know, hey, this is something I have to say. This is something I know something about. Maybe you had an amazing success story that you wanted to, share that others would benefit from, or maybe you have a lesson learned. It was a very hard lesson learned that maybe others would also benefit from hearing about. And those are the types of things, of course, you can write about on LinkedIn and other places too. But being able to start to, kind of get out in front of audiences and share some of those stories, I think is, really helpful. And then maybe the last that I have around that is reaching out to local colleges and universities and offering yourself as a guest speaker. I actually have been doing that with a lot of the local colleges and universities in the Denver area, and building relationships with faculty members who I think are very eager to bring in professionals who can bring a practical perspective to maybe some of the content that they're sharing from an academic perspective. And as a result of me doing some guest speaking, I'm actually now an adjunct faculty member actually teaching at a university. So it's a lot of fun how those things kind of continue to build on each other. But, both written communications like LinkedIn, or speaking at conferences and events, or in front of university and student groups is a great way to start to get your name out there.